G'day legends, welcome back to Mikey Talk. Today we have episode 33. It's actually the first guest episode of 2026. This next guest, he founded Creative Converters at 20 years old, built that, sold it, and now he spends his time helping other creative agency founders to nail in on their offer, their messaging, and to build and grow their company. He's also a legend and an all-round fun time, so love to introduce you to Hugh.
Hugh.
There you go, Hugh.
Thanks, brother.
No worries.
Feels good to be here, mate.
How's the start of the year been for you?
It's been pretty good. It's been busy, actually. I feel like I just kind of kept going from 2025, so I feel like I'm running into the year with some momentum, which is good.
Nice.
Yeah.
First guest in Mikey Talk for the year.
I know, it's a privilege, mate.
Honoured to have
stoked.
you. Right, so I got 10 questions for you.
Yeah,
you ready?
Let's go.
So you co-founded Creative Converters at 20 years old. Take me back to that moment. What made you think that you could build an agency at that age?
Yeah, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, I'll be honest. I was actually working at a cafe and I met some lady at the cafe and she said, come to this networking event. And turns out it was an end of year Christmas party and I got invited the next day to kind of work in this agency. So yeah, kind of at a young age at like 18, 19, kind of got mentored by someone that was quite senior in the agency world. And at the same time, I was a musician, was playing gigs and festivals and going to nightclubs. And I met this guy, Noah, and he was a videographer that was always had like this big founder vision. And we just jammed out on music and wrote heaps of songs together. And yeah, just decided to put our brains together. I was learning about sales and marketing, and he was learning about systems and team and creating leverage. And he opened my whole brain. He gave me the 4-hour work week, and it completely changed my world. I didn't realize that you didn't have to work in a cubicle for the rest of your life, which is kind of the direction I was heading in. And I was like, wow, this is refreshing. This is something that I want to do. And we decided to put our heads together, and I came in to kind of help grow the business and just dove in like a cowboy. We had no idea what we were doing and just attacked the market at 1,000,000 miles an hour and just solved problems as they came up. And yeah, it just happened.
Was there a certain point in that, so from 20 years old, like was there a certain point or age where you're like, oh shit, like we're actually building like an agency here?
Yeah. It happened when we got an office in Toorak, on Toorak Road. It was like a little glass box, like a fishbowl. And it happened that day when I think there was a target on the board for doing 90K. And at the time we were doing like 30K a month. And we literally had like a hit list of brands. And I'd just be on phone calls all day, like talking to these companies, trying to win them over. And there was one day where we did hit our 90K and we had like 5 or 6 people in the office, like contract video editors and models walking through doing shoots. And I was like, this is a system. This is cool. This is actually working. And yeah, instead of traveling and doing all the things you do at 20, I just decided to go all in because it felt good.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
It was working. You also like, you were doing heaps of sales for clients, like $500 million worth of sales for clients. How did you figure out TikTok marketing? Because I know you pivoted to that when most agencies were still doing like Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, we were always like, the vision of the company was always to be on the cutting edge and to push brands into the next kind of revolution or the next hemisphere of growth. And the culture around it was to hire young. And we were at a really bad, stagnant point in our journey. You know, we'd grown to 300K a month, but we were really unprofitable. And we were unprofitable because we signed a bunch of retainers, took on a massive lease with this 3-story building in the middle of Cremorne that was so expensive. And we hired like 30, 35 staff. And we lost a few retainers with the iOS update, which meant that we were unprofitable. And so we literally had to solve this problem. There were months there we were just bleeding hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we took on this girl, Molly, who had worked at Bondi Sands. She had a lot of like brand experience and she was talking about the power of TikTok, and something just clicked for us that was the next wave. And we always had this vision of the next wave. Through COVID, it was UGC and e-commerce, and it felt like that bubble popped. And so it was really being able to see that next thing and realizing that there was this opportunity. There was no one else in that space. None of the big brands knew anything about TikTok, and none of them were even on there. So half my job was just educating people on the power of TikTok and what it can really do. And it worked. Yeah, we were the first to market and we ran with it for a little while. So
were the clients receptive of that, or was there like a lot of, I guess, trying to explain to them that, this is a new thing that we want to try?
I kind of saw it as an advantage because they trusted us because we were young and we'd already done it for a few brands. So it was just kind of like hopping on and calling, like sharing our passion for TikTok, and educating them and inspiring them and showing them their potential. People were spending upwards of 100K on a TVC where they could have it the same, if not a bigger impact on TikTok for something that would cost them 10K or 20K. And just that alone was enough for a lot of CFOs to get them across the line. But obviously there's some archaic, teams in there that were pretty hard to convince at times. So it was a journey.
So then you sold the company. You stayed on for about a year or so after, and then fully exited last year. What was that experience like? Both the selling and then leaving. Yeah,
it was hard to come to terms with letting go. It was a really big process for me. Not only was it a company that kind of consumed a lot of my identity and my life, but we built a team that were all our friends. My co-founders were my friends. Our staff were my friends. And so that shift away from that world was really hard. I didn't really know what I was going to do next. And the dynamic in shifts in friendships was really tough as well. And at the time I was living in Bali and I'd taken on a mortgage. So there was like a massive shift in my life. And the actual sale went quite smoothly. We sold it to an initial client, Greta Van Riel, who was Forbes 30 under 30 and had multiple e-com brands and run an influencer agency. And she already knew all the staff, so it worked really well. But I stayed on for quite a while just to ensure that things were working. And I think I realized that I had this idea that I had to be there to help, when in reality, I was probably just delaying their ability to do it on their own. So it was a massive lesson with me on like that handover period. And I probably should have left sooner in order to step into that next version of myself. But I think in that time, I took on a lot of responsibility and learned a lot. So hopefully I can then now pass it on to the right people that are going through that same journey.
Yeah, I can imagine being so close to something and then walking away from it as well. Probably a little bit of you that just didn't want to leave it.
Definitely. Yeah, there was a part of me that kind of wanted to just, because I got offered to stay on with the person that bought it, Greta, and there was a part of me that really wanted to stay on and go through that next growth cycle. But I think there's like layers in life, and I felt like I'd kind of completed a layer and I was ready to go deeper. And while I was there, ever since day one, I had this deeper calling that I wasn't fulfilling, like a scratch that I wasn't being able to itch, to do with purpose. I didn't feel like I had much purpose apart from creating culture and helping brands make money, and it didn't feel super aligned. So I felt there was like a deeper layer to go to, which was about really empowering other people. And I suppose serving, it felt more meaningful to me, helping the person that I was passionate about, like a creative, for example.
Yeah, well, that kind of answers the next question a little bit, which was like after saying you could have done anything you wanted, could have retired, you could have like just lived a nomad life for however long you wanted. So then you've launched Well Founded and now helping other agency founders. So why do you think it was time for that path?
Yeah, it comes down to alignment, and I think growth for Creative Converters in the last year probably stagnated because there wasn't full alignment from all the founders. There was a point in time where it felt like there was three of us manifesting this spinning rocket ship, shooting at 1,000,000 miles an hour with a huge team of creatives building this culture in Melbourne. It was insane. But I felt like I'd lost that spark and I had to listen to that. And I didn't want to go build another agency. It's all I'd known. So I was like, okay, how can I create that spark again? And I actually had this French guy, Hugo, reach out to me, who was a founder, living in France, and he'd run a TikTok agency. And he was like, I need some help. And so I just jumped on a call with him and I got that spark again. And it felt like just the value that I could bring to him felt more to me than just, making money for some big company. So I felt like I just wanted to keep empowering people and kind of just listen to that little spark and follow the spark.
Was there any part of you that was like ready to just retire and like kind of be done?
Yeah, I mean, part of me was, but I don't think it was feasible at the time. Like, I've got a lot of goals and visions, and I still felt like I wanted to use business as a vehicle for purpose, freedom, wealth creation, and enablement of the lifestyle that I want. And to be honest, even after the sale, we didn't take a massive sale. I wasn't in the position to do that. So, yeah, to be honest, wasn't time.
I mean, you're so young.
Yeah.
So now you're helping me with good ideas to refine my messaging, my offer. We just had a very sick 2-hour workshop over here, which I'm very grateful for your time.
Yeah.
When you look at agencies and studios, what's the biggest mistake that you see founders making?
Good question. The biggest mistake, number one, is it's really hard, is they inherently don't see the immense value and potential that they can bring to the world. So they don't communicate it, they don't attract the right people, and they don't charge what they're worth. And so a lot of people shoot themselves in the foot. It's really hard when you're so close to it. It's hard to see. Some people might know the value that they can bring, but when they don't have the capability to articulate it properly and communicate it, whether that's through an ad or through a sales call or through a VSL, it's really hard to consistently grow. So I tell a lot of people I ask them, what's the most high leverage thing that you think you bring to a client? Package it up, bottle it up, and articulate it in a way that shows how that systematically solves their problem. So to simplify it, what's the most high leverage thing that you bring to the world? Package it up in a way that's valued and share that with as many people as possible.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about transparency? Do you think there's a duty of responsibility, or where do you think transparency lies with agencies or advertising and then with clients?
I think it's really important. Trust with a relationship with a client is built on transparency. I don't necessarily feel that you have to be fully transparent with how you are pricing your services, how you're sharing your profit. I think there needs to be extreme transparency on success and what's actually possible. I see so many people that get themselves in situations because they haven't defined what success needs to look like for the client, and they haven't transparently or honestly owned how they're going to do that or their relationship in supporting that client to get to that destination. And then it becomes a bit of a trap and a nightmare. Things should feel good and things should feel possible. And when it doesn't, then we shouldn't take on that load. And I think, a lot of the work that I do with founders is helping them be really clear with their expectations and transparency and forecasting and what's possible. So that, people can understand what the possibility is and good scenarios, bad scenarios, likely scenarios, so that the person can kind of make the decision on potentially the worst outcome. And if they can accept that, then they can accept the best outcome, obviously.
Kind of makes it a little bit easier when it gets to that point as well, instead of backtracking or trying to find excuses for why things maybe didn't go the right way.
Yeah, and even that, it doesn't have to be about promising a goal or a particular thing, but it's the logic of hey, if we're continually optimizing and our promise is to continue working to then get to that point, and that's enough, I think a lot of people Hormozy talks about guarantees and putting your money where your mouth is, but personally, I don't think you need a guarantee if you trust your creative philosophy and your process, and people can see that how you systematically solve a problem. It's all down to that system of how you step by step solve a particular problem and drive a particular outcome. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Back to Bali for a little bit. Spent a bit of time over there. I didn't know you were actually looking to put a mortgage on a place as well.
Yeah.
What drew you to that lifestyle?
Just surf, to be honest. There was a stage at probably year 3 or 4 of Creative Converter. I think year 3 of Creative Converters, where me and Noah sat down with Gabby, who was the GM, and we kind of was just well, what do we want? What's really important right now? And I'd realized that I'd kind of worked for the first 3-4 years of my 20s without doing much travel. And I inherently was just freedom, because my mind is just ultimately trying to create freedom. And we just talked about how can we move to Bali. Noah had been to Bali for a quick trip and he told me all about it. And I was like, this sounds like heaven. There's just perfect barrels wrapping around an island, sick. And it was very possible to work over there with the time zone. So we gave ourselves 4 months and set out all the tasks that needed to happen in order for us to move to Bali. And by April, I'd moved to Canggu, and I didn't like Canggu. It was not what I expected, and then moved to Uluwatu a month later and lived there for like a year and a half. And we constantly had team coming and going, and we kind of tried to foster this environment where people could come and work with us in Bali and spend some quality time there to kind of unwind and do really good work. And I just surfed morning and night. I created that space and kind of opened up my world to see what was possible. Met a lot of founders doing cool things, people living very differently. I got super fit because I was surfing every day. And just loved the lifestyle. It felt like the slowly motto of Bali kind of seeped into me and like had that nervous system reset that I think I didn't get when I was like going into Cremorne every day on the train and like, you know, stressing about client stuff. You're just like that little bit more removed from the typical Melbourne grind, you know.
Plus not surfing 2 times a day.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it about Canggu that didn't hit?
I got sick there a lot.
Yeah.
A pretty funny story. Probably my fault, but there was like a really wet, rainy day, and there was all this water running off the streets, like a river into the ocean where we were surfing. And we'd surfed out at Canggu at the beachy there. And then I came in and instantly I was like super dizzy. I was like, what is going on? I started vomiting. And I had like a really bad ear infection, and I was like on the tiles, like vomiting, like just from this crazy ear infection. I think that was the final cornerstone for me about Canggu. Yeah, and just had Bali belly heaps. And there was like a lot of party culture at the time. I was kind of like trying not to drink and trying to lock in, and it just wasn't really my people there. So then when I went to Uluwatu, I kind of found this perfect combination of like surfer, founder, like deeper thinker, and it was a cool intersection.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then with Well Founded still being relatively fresh, what's been an unexpected challenge building this compared to Creative Collective?
Yeah. Really great question, dude. I'd say Creative Converters was like a shared effort. You know, it was like this team culture, energy, momentum. I found like, you know, for the last 5-6 years, I've worked with teams and enabled teams and fostered culture and momentum. And back to working on my own was pretty tough. You know, I bought a house, moved into it in Northcote with my girlfriend, and went from, you know, running an office and a team and living in Bali to living in the north of Melbourne and working out of my apartment on my laptop and trying to figure out how I would mentor people and build a program. And I think there was a lot of like imposter syndrome and umming and ahhing about if I could actually empower people and, you know, if I actually had the knowledge and if I was the right person to do this. Probably just because I was alone all day. And so that kind of isolation was really tough to deal with. And then just really didn't realize the amount of detail and thinking that needs to go into creating a system to support people without me being there all the time. So I've done a lot of one-to-one support for maybe the last year. And that's just like pure energy. Like ultimately what I'm instilling is like pure belief and showing people the path and allowing them to apply themselves to the path. But that can be quite draining if you're, you know, on multiple calls every day. It's just like pretty much another sales role. So yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge, but now I've really learned the lesson in building systems and putting the time and effort and energy into building guides and video modules and PDFs and I suppose creating a system for people to move through without me, which has been a really cool lesson on leverage. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is your first, I guess, venture building solo.
Yeah, and info. It's completely new to me. Like always sold like B2B and yeah, very different spaces. There was obviously a fair bit of education that went into Creative Converters with TikTok and you know, building SOPs and teams and all that kind of stuff. But this is a different kettle of fish. And just understanding how people learn, you know, people absorb information so differently. And there are different personality types. So it's like how to curate things for different people as well has been really cool. Yeah.
If someone listening to this is running a creative agency or studio and feels stuck, what's the first thing they should do tomorrow morning to start moving forward?
To launch whatever that thing is that you're thinking about. I think we can and ah on things for months. And we don't feel like we can share that thing with the world because it's not ready, but it's always ready and we never know until we do the thing. And I think my motto for 2026, I nearly said 2025, is creative urgency, just getting the thing out there and then learning. Because yeah, that's been like a big pattern with a lot of my students. There's a lot of this perfectionist paralysis where they'll take months to do something. And I'm kind of just like, we can enable ourselves to just do the thing and learn after. And that was kind of the mindset that I had at CC. We would just like launch and learn, get it live. Confidence creates consistent momentum. So get it out.
Yeah. How much do you think social media and like caring about what other people think plays into that?
Yeah, I think that's a big blockage.
Yeah.
But I think you just kind of have to build a bridge and get over it, because it's always going to be there. And the thing that I like to think about is, instead of focusing on, like the what if this doesn't work, or the what if people don't, respond properly, it's focusing on the what if this does work and what this will actually create for you. Because if you just impact one person or just one person books a call, it could change your life, it could change their life. So instead of focusing on like dimming ourselves and fear and shame and worry, it's about focusing on sharing your light and beaming that out into the world and being that inspiration for someone and sharing your potential, because we all have the potential to do great, to share good ideas, but only if it's shared. Yeah.
Well, we've only got one question left. Already powered through this whole interview. So looking ahead, where do you want Well-Founded to go, and what does success look like for you now compared to when you're building Creative Converters?
Yeah. Success is impacting multiple people and enabling growth. So I'm really trying to enable people to see their own inherent value and their own potential, and then to take the steps to actually achieve that. I'd love to impact thousands of freelancers and creatives and agency owners that are kind of trapped in that perfectionist paralysis cycle, or don't know how to attract the dream client, or are undercharging and on that hamster wheel of feast and famine. I'd love to enable people to access freedom and the lifestyle that they want. For me, where I'm going is building a bit more of like a community around this and an online program, so that I can impact more people at scale instead of being capped in my one-to-one capacity. So the idea behind Well-Founded is, to create an education company that empowers people, but then connects freelancers with agency owners. What I've seen inherently through the people that I've impacted, I've got like a WhatsApp group of all the people I've worked with, and constantly asking people like, what's the value of what I do? And one of the things that was really interesting that came back that I didn't expect was the connections and the deals and the deal sharing and the collaboration and knowing that they're not alone. So the goal is to build a program, a self-paced course, a group program, and a community. So there's kind of like shameless deal sharing and, stuff going on, so people can broaden their horizons and meet other people as well.
I mean, that's what you need though. Like through Good Ideas, that's what it was kind of built off, was just knowing a whole bunch of very talented freelancers and being able to be like a broker between like creative work and them. And then like a lot of freelancers don't need to be on the ground selling their soul on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatnot, if there is someone that can kind of do it for them, and then just like trust them with the work. Because that's like, I can see why people find that so valuable.
It's the best thing, being that intermediary. And sometimes you don't think you can do something until you meet someone else that's the same as you, doing the same stuff as you, better, And when you see that and then you see what they're doing, it's like, okay, I can do this, especially if the path's there.